Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, everyone. So we're during the trading day on Wednesday, August 25th, and I took some new swing trade positions today and wanted to share them just for the sake of sharing. JMIA, which was on my list last night, oh, it's right here, continues its bullish crossover. Obviously, yesterday my position felt a little bit premature, but again, it was because I'm relatively familiar with JMIA. Today it's testing this 20 MA, which is exactly what I was looking for, also establishing over this 1950 supply and demand zone, which I had previously charted, with obviously a ton of upside as I see it. And so I thought that it made sense to jump in, and this is adding to a position that I had previously. So I'm actually, by buying in today, even though it's having a really nice run up today, it's still averaged down my previous position. So I felt like adding to it made sense. Similar situation with SOFI, actually. Continue to average down as it continues to press this 1502 zone that I have targeted here. You see, currently treating it as resistance. It was previous resistance over here, it was previous support all along here, and ties back to some support zones back here as well. So that will likely be a tough one, but getting closer to that 20 MA, getting closer to a bullish crossover, but again, a relatively risky position, I mean, by my standards, because it hadn't yet crossed over. It's recovering from a pretty big beatdown after earnings, and the MAs are still in a bearish formation. So just more or less took it because of what I'm seeing on the MACD. I liked that it was holding that 1411 support zone, and I'm relatively familiar with it, and I'm averaging down a longer term position as well, so I added to it today, even though it's slightly green again today. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, again, because I'm relatively familiar with SOFI, would be okay if it went down and tested this 1411 zone again, and as long as it doesn't flip it to resistance, I'm happy to either dip buy down into that area or wait and see what it does at that point before I would make any decision to jump out of a shorter term position for SOFI. SPFR I took on today, Jaws Spitfire. Now I sort of stared at this one for a while, and I'll kind of talk about why. So it's very, very low volume, right? Even its average very low, which I don't love, but it does have opportunity to run back up quite a bit percentage-wise. It's been beaten down quite a bit. I like that the MAs are consolidating toward each other because it'll give a very clear indication when they do make a movement strongly in one direction or the other. So I feel like I'll be able to catch like a stop loss if they start to really turn downward. It should be pretty obvious. And also this MACD has continued to roll up even through some of these down days like we see here. It's continued to roll up through those, so I'm hoping that that's indicative of some buying pressure that's going to be catching up to SPFR in the near future. Again, these are on the daily chart. These are longer term swing trade positions predominantly, looking at several weeks or up to a couple of months. I don't like to hold them more than a couple of months just because I like to try to have capital to jump on whatever seems to be making sense at the time, but ideally if a few weeks in a position is good for me. So we'll see what happens with this one, but I think that I can catch it if it does turn down. VCYT, about to have a bullish crossover, stringing together a bunch of really good green days. That of course could mean that there's some red days coming, but I would be okay with sort of seeing how this plays out. It's establishing or trying to establish over the 20 MA, which could give it an additional lift. You see back here it had this bullish crossover of the 50, and then it's just now picking up its second run. You see it ran up here, picking up its second run now that bullish crossover has happened. And so I'm interested to see what happens, especially if it can come up and test that 200 MA. Now, about to have a bullish crossover on the MACD if that continues the way that it appears to be, and sort of keep an eye on this one and see how it plays out. But it looked like a relatively decent setup, not the most perfect that I've ever seen, but AVAV, similarly to, I guess, SPFR, you see it's had this like relatively bullish trend on the MACD, and that persisted pretty well through this dip down here that we see, and it's now attempting a bullish crossover of the 20 MA over the 50 MA, even though they had just come down in a bearish crossing on 7.7 or so, and then had bearishly crossed over the 200. So there will be some resistance coming up, but if we get a bullish crossover here on the MACD and that bullish trend generally continues, and we get additional bullish crossovers on the MAs with the price action establishing over the 20, that could be enough elevating factors to make this one make sense. I thought it was worth the risk for the time being. JD has had a couple of really big days. It jumped up 14% yesterday, and now it's up almost 1% again today, which like isn't anything to sort of pop champagne bottles about, but following a 14.44% day on the previous day, that's pretty impressive. Obviously, big bullish crossover here, kind of jumping in a situation where the MACD is generally trending down. So I don't super love that, but this bullish crossover, very strong. It is also pressing against, sort of like we see with JMIA, this previous stop loss zone that I had charted when I sold out of my last position with JD, right around 75, 76. I can't exactly tell what that is, but it's right about where the price is at the moment, and then there's a bunch of additional resistance coming up above. But for now, I'm hoping that the 50 and the 20 add additional support if it does dip down, and that can help catch them and preserve this bullish momentum up on the MACD. And then, if it does continue up, the 20 crossing over the 50 would be an additional elevating factor from the MA perspective. And lastly, CE kind of stumbled into this one while poking around. This one, so like not the best volume, not the volume that I usually track down, but I'm trying to expand my horizons a bit. Now it's strung together several nice green days, starting to establish over the 20 MA. 20 has also bullishly crossed over 50, so now fully in a bullish formation as far as the MAs are concerned. Could be following that up with a bullish cross in the MACD. I don't expect too much out of this one because the MACD is crossing over above the baseline, so I don't know how much room there will be to run. For example, I don't know if we'll really press much higher than, I'll be watching very closely this area to see if it tops out there again or if it's able to actually get through. But, I thought it was worth sort of trying to introduce to some new tickers and see how that would go. But yeah, I'll be watching this one closely and just kind of see. But to me, the MACD and the bullish setup on the MAs and the price action establishing over made sense. Now, if I could quickly do a plug here, I have a brand new Instagram, Walkabouts with Dan on Instagram, if you want to head over there and follow. And I put this out this morning, and this is something that I'm thinking of doing every morning or most mornings, picking up on some potential runners for the day, some stocks that are moving really strongly in the pre-market. So I put this out, this is 5 hours ago. I mean, this was probably about 9 o'clock, a little after 9 o'clock, maybe 9:10, 9:15. So catching it a little bit before market open, but we want to take a look at how these tickers did today. LWAC up a lot, but I mean, most of this was already consumed by the time I put that out. So, just looking at it to see if it had any more room to run up. It had run up quite a bit before it sold off right at open there. And then BXRX had a nice day, ran up almost 5.5%, at least at the moment. CEI up 5.25%, was up a bit more earlier on in the day. And Xers up about 5.25%. I guess maybe I should just change this to these stocks will go up 5.25%. EXPR This will probably break the trend. Oh yeah, big time breaks the trend. So you see this was running up quite a bit on, I think this was on really good earnings. But then this is why we have to watch very closely. As you see here, it had flipped over right about when I was putting this out. These were starting to move really strongly in a bearish direction. So that's why I need to be really cautious and still look for the bullish signs, because this is a really strong movement into a fully bearish formation, 200 above the 50, 50 above the 20. Now it's been able to recover a bit if folks bought the dip, but certainly not a stellar day for EXPR. But if that's interesting to you, have a look at Walkabouts with Dan on Instagram, and just know that any of these tickers are just sort of like heads up. These are moving some in the pre-markets. They could have some potential, but you have to look for the bullish signs at market open, see how it goes throughout the day. Keep a really close eye on it, because a lot of these may not be multi-day runners. They might exhaust themselves, like we see on EXPR here, in the pre-market, and then just absolutely plummets. And then others like XERS, might have some more steam in them, but I don't know if this would continue to run tomorrow. We see now that it's late in the day, it's starting to deal with probably some profit taking and coming down a bit. So a lot of these are most likely intraday type of plays, but I thought it could be interesting to share those. And yeah, but just know you gotta put the work in. Gotta keep a close eye on these, because these are very volatile stocks. All right, folks. Well, I certainly appreciate you watching, and I hope that you're enjoying this swing trade series. I don't know if it's interesting to folks, but if it is, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.